Recorded from the Oklahoma State University Stillwater campus, this is the Inside OSU podcast. Here are your hosts, Meghan Robinson and First Cowboy Darren Shrum.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inside OSU podcast. I'm Meghan Robinson, joined once again by my co-host, Darren Shrum. And today we have a pre-vet student. You might be wondering, why a pre-vet student on the podcast? Well, Owen Eckhardt was a contestant on this season of American Idol. How cool.
It was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie.
Darren and I are both fans of the show, and
Huge.
We're going to get into your experience very shortly. But first, how old were you when you first started to sing and get into music?
I honestly couldn't tell you. Ever since I've been talking, I've been singing, And it's funny, my mom always tells me, like, the times that we'd be in, like, Target, and I'd be in the basket, in the little baby seat. And I'd be screaming, "Ain't no mountain high enough," like, for no reason. But serenading Target, I guess. But I really couldn't tell you how old I was. I mean, it's just always been something that I've grown up doing. So.
Do your folks sing or play or anything?
My mom sings, but she will not sing publicly.
Right.
And so, like, that's been one of the things, like, we'll sing in the car, or, like, we'll sing around the house if I play, like, she'll sing. But I'm always trying to get her to sing, and I'm like, come on, like, we can do this tonight. She's like, I don't know, my voice is messed up, Her voice was never fully recovered, coincidentally, but...
She needed stage presence night, didn't she?
I guess so. Apparently I still do.
Well, let's
Right.
We'll get to your journey.
Okay.
We'll start right now. What made you want to audition for American Idol?
I mean, I've been watching American Idol, again, since I can remember. But that was always something that we would just sit down at dinner and I'd be the one to be like, hey, can we turn on American Idol, please? Like, speed this up. Like, come on. And I've been watching that since I was tiny. And I always wanted it to be, like, I always knew it was something that I wanted to do, And seeing people like Kelly Clarkson come out, and more recently, like, Scotty McCreery, Gabby Barrett, like, those were, like, huge stars in my eyes, Like, they went through this whole process, and then, boom, here they are. They're skyrocketing. And that was always just something that was inspiring to me. And I was like, man, if I can make it on there, that's the recipe right there. Like, that's what you do. Like, but, it's, and I've always loved music. So, I mean, the thought of it was always, like, really fun to me. So, it's always been something I wanted to do. So.
That's awesome. And your audition city was Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Did you plan a trip out to Las Vegas specifically to audition? How did all of that work?
So, I got the call the day before I moved in to OSU that I was going to see the judges. And I was like, oh my gosh, like.
So you've already sang to somebody at this point before?
Oh, yes. Like,
okay.
There are multiple.
Well, kind of explain that, because
this
year was more than ever. It's like everybody had two songs prepared, right?
Oh, I had three. Like, they were like, always have three songs. And
right, so you got to spell it, so kind of tell how that goes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I started out probably early August. Went through one day of just, like, Zoom room to Zoom room to Zoom room with executive producers everywhere, like, a million different breakout rooms. And I ended up going through, I think it was 6 or 7 rounds on Zoom.
Jeez.
And this took hours and hours, because in between you'd be waiting for 30 minutes, an hour.
Just sitting on Zoom. Did you have to fill out an application before the Zoom, or was it just like, hey, you want to audition for American Idol, sign up here, and we're going to put you in a Zoom call?
I think it was more, so I had auditioned multiple times before COVID, too. Like, that was whenever you would go to, like, the big cities, and you'd, like, wrap around the building and stand there all day and then sing for 20 seconds and then usually leave. But I had done that twice, I think, and then other than that, I've done multiple times on Zoom. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know, like, it was just, sorry, what was the question again? I got off track.
Just kind of the process. So you sang, you did the Zooms, you did several Zooms. And then how did you get promoted, I guess, to the next level, where you got to walk into the judges?
You go through these little rooms with a million executive producers, and then all of a sudden you go through your last one, and you don't know if it's going to be your last one or not. But you go through your last one, and they're like, okay, we'll let you know. So you're just like, okay, I'm done for the day. And I sat on there for probably 5-6 hours. Like, wow. It was ridiculous. And you'd be done for the day, and you'd just wait for a phone call. And then finally I was at work one day, and I got a phone call. Missed it, of course. And so I get a voicemail and it's like, hey, this is so-and-so from American Idol. Like, I just want to congratulate you. Like, you're going to see the judges and whatnot. And call me back. And, of course, I'm freaking out because I'm like, of course, I would be the one to miss that call, you know. But call me back and we'll get something planned out, you know. And so I call him back. He doesn't answer. I'm like, okay, well, this is going down the drain. Sorry, like I
missed
all this
it.
for nothing. I blew it. And
All right.
finally, we stopped playing phone tag, and we're like, I'm on the phone with him. I'm like, hello, like, whatever. He tells me the whole spiel, and of course, I'm freaking out. I'm like, holy crap! Like, I'm going to see the judges. Like, I'm gonna meet freaking Lionel Richie and stuff. You know, like that's insane. And so from there, you plan out what city is going to be best for you. And, of course, get that call the day before I move in, and I'm like, okay, how is this going to work? Because, one, I'm a freshman, have no idea what this is going to be like. And so I'm like, okay, we're just going to make it work, kind of go with the flow, whatever. And finally we come to the consensus. We're like, okay, I'm going to go to Las Vegas in September, which is like 2 weeks into my freshman year.
So they picked that for you.
They
right?
usually usually yes, they do.
Okay.
But I was like more like, okay, like I have things. I just moved into college. Like
Sure.
I'm gonna have to work around this. And then I'm like on there. I'm like, okay, I have a chem test this day, so I can't do that. And so I was more of the one to kind of dictate when that was going to be happening because there wasn't really any other option. But
Did they pay for your flight?
they did.
Okay.
They paid
Hotel
for
room?
They paid
Anything?
for my hotel room.
Okay.
They put me in it, and I was worried about that at first because they won't disclose where you're staying until like 48 hours in advance.
Oof. And in
And
Vegas,
so, and I'm like,
Did you get like the pink flamingo?
I'm
or
like,
something
this is
like
a
that?
hit or miss. Like down the strip, you never know what you're going to be getting.
Right.
And so they put me in a really nice hotel. I was in the Astoria. It's very nice.
Sure.
Awesome. But they paid for all my flights. They paid for my bags. They gave me little food vouchers in Hollywood and stuff. So, like, they paid for a lot of stuff.
So was that pretty standard for everybody there at that audition?
Yeah.
So how many was like at that audition? How many people showed up for that?
They told us that in the Zoom rounds, they started out at 400-something thousand.
Oh, my
400,000?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And they limit it down to go see the judges to 320
Okay.
or so.
320 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They cut 400,000
Mm-hmm.
down to 320.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Or some ballpark 320.
My gosh.
somewhere
Now
in
that's
there.
probably for all locations total, right? Or is that
Mhm.
just
That's for all
And then they cut
locations.
them down to the various
Then they
locations,
cut.
right? Okay.
So you go from the 320 to there were about 150 in Hollywood.
So they're about 100-ish, give or take, at each, because there were 3 cities.
Yeah.
So there were about 100 each in each audition
Right.
city that then get cut down.
Yeah.
So about 50 people per.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it was a little stressful. And
You're
I'm
really
glad
good
I
at
didn't.
math.
You're
Thank
so
you.
good at math.
Thank you.
That was mind blowing.
So much, guys. This is not about me. This is about your American Idol journey.
But it did make me feel better that they didn't tell us that until we were in Hollywood, because otherwise I would have been freaking out. And I was like, okay, that's actually a pretty big accomplishment, I guess.
It's
Like I
huge.
can let go. I can let go a little bit, like relieve myself. But
That's like 0.05%.
Yeah, that's insane. I just can't
I
get
just
over
made
the
that up. I just made that up.
400,000.
yeah, do you have a percentage for us, please?
400,000
Of what was left?
Like
of the
Zoom
my-
rounds to Hollywood. Is there a percentage of like?
I would need to
anything?
whip out my calculator.
Okay.
My quick math ends with simple
What a
addition and
rookie
subtraction.
needs a calculator, you know.
I think it's like 0.01%.
I mean, it's something like
that,
that.
yeah.
We'll go with
It
that.
was small,
That's
so I
insane.
was proud of it. I was like, okay, that'll work. Like,
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so
There we
then
go.
you're in Hollywood. Okay, we're not your sorry. You get to Hollywood, but we're gonna your audition.
yeah.
How long was your audition day when you got to see the judges?
Well, you are classified as like a day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, because there's multiple days in each city that they're going to be seeing people.
Okay.
And so even if you're a day 4, whatever outfit you're wearing on day 1, you're wearing on day 4,
Okay.
day 2, day 3, day 4. So they make it look like it's all one day.
All one day.
That was mind blowing to me. I was like, okay, that was like my first taste of, okay, like we're seeing how this really works. And, so here I am in my same outfit for 3 days. And I'm like trying to Febreze it because I'm like, they had us in these waiting rooms.
Yeah,
Like
it's hot.
they're outside. It's in Vegas in early
It's
September.
hot and sweaty.
And so we're like out there with our electric fan hanging like, and so we go and I wait all day, every day. And like you have different stations you go to while you're waiting. So you'll have one where it's like the social media station where they take little pictures of you. So like when the day comes, you have these pictures to post. Or like you have your digitals where you go and do these little interviews and like your little, they call it ad lib, whatever. And you would basically just like walk around and like with these really like melancholy looks and like make it look like you're really stressed. So they can like cut to that whenever it's like almost your audition time on TV and like all these little things. Like I would literally be having a camera film me while I was literally just pacing and just like looking up at the skyline. like so like it was the little things
you have
that
to be
like
a good singer and an actor.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. I wasn't prepared for that. So
Right.
I was like, this ain't in my wheelhouse. Like, but it was just like all those little things that you would do while you're waiting. And so finally your day comes and you're just stuffed into like a gigantic waiting room with everyone there. And of course I had my mom with me. So we would sit there and we'd be like, oh my God, like, is it almost time? Like, we're ready to be done. So they would have their little interviews with me and my mom and everything. And finally they were like, okay, here y'all go. They would sit you in chairs, whatever. And you just sit there and wait again, like the entire time. And then finally they'd be like, okay, it's time. Here you go. And then by then you're like anxious, like bouncing. And like I was nervous,
Yeah.
like obviously, but like, and I usually don't get nervous a ton singing in front of people. Like I've been doing it for years now. Like I love singing in front of people. It's like one of my favorite things to do. But like something about that, I was like,
Well, it's Katy Perry, Lionel, Richie,
yeah,
and
I
Luke
guess so.
Bryan. They're not
Right.
just
I
people.
guess that might be something. I don't know. But so that was like my experience there. Like before, like I was just really just like waiting and it was a lot of waiting and being nervous. That was really it. Interviews and stuff. But finally you go in and you walk in and like this whole side of the room is just camera, like everywhere. And so like, you're just like, oh my God, you don't know where to look. Like, do you look at the camera? No. But like, can you not look at the camera? No. Like you have to look. And so like, I don't know where to look. And all of a sudden I have Katy Perry, Lionel, Richie, Luke Bryan sitting up there. I'm like, okay, calm down. Like, it's fine. And so finally, you know, you have your little, I walk in, I've got my harmonica piece because I sang something in orange with like little harmonica. And I walk in the little headset and Luke Bryan's like, man, you look like you got in a car accident. And I'm like, okay, great first words. Glad we're starting off good. Like, this is awesome, you know. And I sit there, I joke around with him a little bit, you know, we talk and whatnot. And finally I sing and everything. Then I end up getting my yeses, you know.
So how many songs did you have to sing? Just the one in front of
I sang 2. They didn't
Okay.
show the second one
Okay.
on TV, but I did sing 2.
Which one do you think you did better at?
I don't know.
The first one? Obviously,
I
you
guess
like the first one.
I
so.
guess the first one. I don't know. I mean, I don't really remember a ton.
I bet.
So,
Yeah.
so
Right.
I walk out. My mom's like, "So like, what happened?" I'm like, "I don't know."
How long were you actually in there with the judges?
I was in there for probably 20 minutes or so.
That's longer than I would have thought.
Mhm. No, it felt like forever because I was nervous the entire time, like cotton mouth, like. Couldn't.
So they don't tell you whenever you finish singing. They don't tell you right then whether you get the ticket or not.
They sit there and they like. For me, they did.
For the
but
20
not-
minutes. Okay.
For me, they did, but like the rest of the time really consisted of other things they were doing. So like, they knew I was a pre-vet major,
Right.
all of these things, because like on my phone interviews with everyone, like they dig up a story for you. You know what
Sure.
I mean? They're trying to see what they can make out of your story to put on TV. And me, I don't really have a ton of like a sob story, one might call it, but they dug. They were like, "How was high school?" And I was like, "Oh, it was great. I was class president all 4 years." Like, like, how's
They're
college?
like, dang it.
They're like, how's college so far? I'm like, "Oh,
He's
it's
normal.
great. I'm in a fraternity. Like,
Stop
I
being popular.
live with like 50 of my best friends.
Right.
Like, it's wonderful." They're like, "How's your family?" And like, "Oh, they're great. Like, everything." And they're like, "How's like, do they support you singing?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, my parents buy me every instrument that I will ever need." Like, they will never let me go without, like, all of these things. And,
Right.
like, I'm sitting there saying it, and I can't lie about it, but, like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I gotta quit being so like, I gotta quit
so
acting like
perfect.
everything's so great. Like, they might actually need something from me, you know what I mean? But I went and did it anyways. I was like, well, couldn't lie. I was like, everything's great, I guess. I don't know. And so like finally they're like, oh, so like what are you doing in school? And where do you go? And I'm like, oh, I'm a pre-vet major at Oklahoma State, you know. And they're like, oh, like veterinary, like that's what you do, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And or I was like, trying to.
Because they brought the dogs out,
We're
right?
trying. They did.
brought the dogs
they
out.
did. So that's what, and I had no idea that was happening. So I will say that was
like you're already a vet, right?
Yeah, right. They were like, man, do you want to come examine our dogs? I'm like, I can act like I know what to do, but sure, I don't know. I'm going to come pet it. Like,
it's a dog.
Yeah, like I'm going to come hold it, like obviously, but I don't know what's wrong with it.
Well, I was watching your audition with a friend who's a third-year vet student, and someone's like, do you know him? And she's like, he is not a vet student. He is pre-vet. He doesn't have his bachelor's. She's like, I've gone through 8 years of schooling, and he is not a vet student.
Under my, like, you know, they do your little name in the corner of the screen, and it was like, Owen Eckhardt, 19, broken arrow, and then it's like vet student. I'm like, I'm not a vet student.
The truth comes out in the Inside OSU
like,
podcast.
listen, guys, like, I know, like, you guys don't have to get mad at me. I promise I'm not a vet student. I know this. But yeah, it was, I acted like I knew what I was doing.
Sure.
So I held it, and I was like, oh. I mean, I didn't examine it. I just held it and played with it. So, I mean,
yeah, it's a dog.
Great.
I mean, it was great. You know?
Was that really their pets, or were there somebody else's?
No, they were their pets.
They were their pets.
Yeah,
okay.
because later, whenever my audition aired, like, Lionel, Richie's dog, he has his own Instagram, who's surprised. Like, Sylvester Richie
right.
posted me holding him, and I was like, okay, great. Like,
I've
so,
made it.
Cool.
right, yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm on Lionel's dog's Instagram.
Right.
That's all I need to do.
Yeah, yeah.
What was it like when the judges said those words, you're going to Hollywood?
It was truly insane because, like I said, I've been watching that show for God knows how long, you know, and I've watched so many people that like inspire me in that same exact situation, you know, and being able to like I'm a big Facebook guy, whether it's not my generational app or not. I'm a big Facebook guy, and I'm not afraid to admit it, you know, but I like scroll through Facebook and all my videos are like literally just American Idol, like that's all it is, and so I just watch audition after audition after audition, and so, like, being in that same situation, in that same, you know, experience is truly, like, it was insane, you know. And being able to hear that, it was like, man, like, maybe it's not just, like, me and my family that, like, think I'm, like, kind of good. Like,
good, right.
Maybe I actually can do something, you know. But, so, it was really cool. It was really neat.
I think Casey liked your message that night. I think we both did. Or liked your Facebook post or something.
I think so.
About,
well,
yeah.
I saw it on I was out on St. Patty's Day with my parents, like having brunch and whatnot, and like we have like a ton of people there, and I'm like I'm on Facebook again, of course, and so like I'm going through Facebook and it's Dr. Casey Shrum and my face, and I'm like, hold on.
We were on the couch watching, man.
I'm like, hold on.
We were watching. Yep.
The math ain't mathin'. I'm on Dr. Casey Shrum Facebook right now, and so I'm like freaking out. I'm like, Mom, look. But it was really cool. So like the entire thing,
man. We loved it. Yeah, it was awesome.
Well, I'm glad to hear.
Yep, for sure.
Made it to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So you audition in September.
Yeah.
In Las Vegas. Then you make it to Hollywood. You go there in December. What was your experience in Hollywood like?
I was scared. I was scared. I'm not afraid to admit that. But like Vegas, like you had your one guest you could take, you know, like, so I took my mom and like everything was okay because like mom was right there. So like we're good. And I go to Hollywood and they're like, no guest allowed if you're above 18. So like, we'll see you here. And I'm like, okay. So here I am like 5 a.m. trying to check my bags by myself. That was a sight to see. Like, it was not, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to like be an adult? Like, okay. And so I'm alone and I'm like, okay, this is great. I fly all the way to Hollywood on the same planes as like 3 other contestants. Did not know until we were meeting at the little sign in Hollywood. And I was like, I've been on 2 flights with you for at least 12 hours today. So like, that's awesome. That's great. I'm glad we're just now meeting each other. But I got to the airport and like we do our whole thing. And like, I think I didn't realize how different I was from a lot of the people actually auditioning, because I'm not like a super like flashy person. I'm not. And like, I'm loud, obviously, and I talk a lot, but like it is nothing like a lot of those people that like it blew me away genuinely. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like they never stop talking. Like I don't know what to do. Like, oh my God. Okay. But
like the kid that flips burgers.
Zachariah.
He's got a lot of energy.
So much
like
energy.
a lot of them have that much energy,
that,
and like
yeah.
I'm just like sitting on the little bus going to the hotel, like on my phone, like whatever. They're already like belting on the bus, like singing, and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna chill over here on Facebook, but I just didn't realize how different I was from a lot of the other contestants. I love them; they're like some of the greatest people I've ever met, and I will ever have the experience to meet. But I'm just very, very different, and I think I realized that a lot in Hollywood, because just like every other thing with American Idol, like there was a lot of waiting. And anytime we'd be in a waiting room, there would be like someone would be singing, belt, and I'm not like under their voice, like they would be belting, like singing, and that was never me. I just kind of sat there, like I was like, I had my like 3 really good friends, and we sat there, we were like, okay, like we're making a pact, like we're not singing, like okay, we're chill, like okay.
Now, did any of those guys make it any further? Your pack of 3 there?
Mariah.
Oh,
and Colin Stow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was really close with him, and
that's the Mississippi kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and he's one of the funniest people I will ever meet.
He's got a draw.
He's one of the funniest people I will ever meet. And we were like sitting in Hollywood, and like we're trying to get our clothes together that we're going to be wearing for 2 days, you know. And he takes his clothes out of his suitcase, and he's like, man, I don't know what it is, but my stuff smells like pond water, and I'm about to have to wear it for 2 days. Like, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, he is like one of the funniest people I will ever meet. And like, I was cracking up laughing every time I was around him. And, but it was Colin Stow, Mariah. Another good friend I made was Leighton Robinson. She was never aired. She's from Fayetteville, or she goes to Arkansas, so she lives in Fayetteville. But, and Jack Rogan. I don't know if you said you watched The Voice, but he was on The Voice, and I recognized him from because I watched The Voice, obviously. So like I recognized him, and I was like, he was sitting with Mariah, and I knew Mariah, and I was like, "Are you Jack from The Voice? Like, is that you? Sorry if it's not, but like if it is, then that's pretty cool." Like, it was. So he's really cool. I'm really close with him too. So I made some really good friends there, and I'd do it all over again, you know. So.
And you got eliminated after the performance
challenge
round.
Yeah.
What was that? You did get to perform one song in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you?
You know, I'd never sang on a stage that big, ever, and so like, and I knew like, obviously from being as big of an American Idol fan, like it was Hollywood, like that was like the stage, you know, and so I go, and of course I'm nervous because it's like all of the other contestants, and then there's the judges again. Like they don't leave. They don't leave. And so, but I get up there and I sing "Two-Story House" by Lainey Wilson, and it wasn't like a super flashy song at all. You know, it was just something that like I could relate to. You know, and that was one of the big things in my audition. The judges were like, "Hey, like, we think you're great, but Lionel, I think, said, don't throw away your endings." That's what it was. And so he was like, if you can do that, that's whenever you become the storyteller, you know. And that's something that I would like to take big pride in, like being able to be a storyteller in a song. Like that's something that like that's the main goal, you know. And so I really took that, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna do something that I can truly that will resonate with me, you know, like sing something that will resonate with me. And Two-Story House it's basically about like, instead of like a 2-story house levels, it's more of like two siblings that live in the same house that are on 2 different paths, you know. And I'm really close to my sister. Like she will forever be my best friend. And she's in nursing school right now, but obviously with her doing that and me wanting to pursue music, like I would love to pursue music, you know, like that's 2 different paths, you know. And so I really took that to heart in Hollywood, and sang it every, like everything that I could have imagined went perfect. Like, sang it exactly how I wanted to sing it. And by the time I got done, I wasn't like upset about any of it because I knew that I had done everything that I had gone out there to do. And I could tell, like, that room, whenever I was singing, like, it was silent. So, like, that was, like, enough. Like, people... You
had their attention.
Yes. Right, like, and right. That's all I needed for me, because, like, I knew that I was telling a story.
So, in your heart, you felt like you should have went through? How did you compare?
You know, Darren, that's not what I'm saying.
Hey, just be honest here. I mean, you know.
But, I mean,
if you get the room's attention, don't they always talk about it when you have the room's attention?
They do always talk about it. That's not always true.
That's the key.
That's
right?
not always true.
That's a key.
But,
right.
You know, in my opinion, I feel like I really did everything I could have, and took the notes from my audition and really applied them as best I could. And, you know, that's all I can ask of myself, you know. And whether that's going through or not, like, I was thrilled, because they bring you out in the line and they're like, you step forward. Front line, you're going home. And I was like, oh, well, like, this was fun. Like,
as a fan, I look at the lines and the names who they call. I'm like, oh, that line is definitely safe because it has this. Did you look at who was next to you and be like, this is it. This is the end of the road?
Yeah. I was like one of the last names they called on the line, and I was like praying. I was like, I saw who was in the line in the front, and I was like, please don't ask me to step forward.
Yeah.
Because I knew.
Yeah.
And here I am. They're like, Owen. And I was like, all right, this was fun, guys. Like, I'll see you later. Like, but I mean, there was a lot of talented people there, but there was just some people.
You felt like you held your own, though, right?
I feel like I held my own, and like obviously, like I will never have the strongest voice in a room, you know, and like if I'm in a room full of talented people like that, I will never be the loudest voice or the strongest voice, or you know, but I will be a good one, you know.
Right,
so
sure.
like,
yeah.
and I think that's the confidence you have to go in to that with, you know, like you can't let that be the reason you stop singing, or like don't let that discourage you enough to where you're like, okay, like this is the end, you know what I mean? And it kind of felt like that's what they wanted after I left, because like after you leave, immediately you do like 3 interviews. You walk out of the room, you go down the aisle, you walk out in the lobby, and there's cameras just waiting.
Like an emotional moment. That's
right.
Yeah.
And me, I like walked out, I fist bumped Jack on the way out. I was like, man, oh well. And so I walk out and they're like, man, like how was that? And I told them, I was like, I did everything I could have, you know, like I'm fine with it, whatever. And they're like, well, like, so you're not broken? And
I'm crushed.
And I was like, no.
I'm a vet student.
I was
right?
like,
so I don't.
No, I think I'm good. They're like, so this isn't the end of singing for you? I was like, no, like I'm still gonna. I was like, no, literally, I was like, I've got to get back to practice for freshman follies. Like, sorry, but I was just like, you know, like, no, it's not. But I appreciate you asking though. Like, and so then they're like, so what's next? Like, now that you're like not on American Idol, what are you gonna do? And I was like, probably the same thing I was doing before. I'm gonna go back to school, like finish my degree. Like,
right.
And so, like, I think that I think for television purposes, they want you to feel that way.
They want you to have a meltdown.
Exactly, because they want people to know how significant American Idol is, and, like, that's great. But, like, there were plenty of people that I saw go home that could very well deserve a spot in the top 26 or wherever they're at right now, you know. And they were definitely not short of talent, you know. And so... like, you just meet so many different people that, like, some of them don't even air. And, like, they make it that far, they don't even air.
Right.
Like, they could make it to the last round of Hollywood, Showstoppers, and get cut, and you would never know they were there. Mm-hmm. You know? And so, it's just, I was fortunate enough to, like, at least get my name out there with my audition. And I gained such a following just from that. Like,
sure.
That was more traction than I've ever had on Instagram. Ever. So I was like, this is a win. Like,
heck yeah.
But you know, like, I was fortunate enough for mine to at least air, and to air in a good fashion,
mm-hmm.
because there were plenty of people that theirs aired, and you could tell like it was for TV, and like they were doing everything they could to like mold that in a way that people didn't want it molded. But I was fortunate because mine aired, and it aired in a very good fashion.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
Would you go back next season? You're young enough.
I know. I get this question all the time, and I don't know. I wouldn't mind it, but from my point of view, it's almost just as beneficial to just go out and play gigs. Like, obviously, less people are going to see you, sure, but you're gaining experience from a real life situation, like something that's applicable, and you're gaining experience from going and singing in front of people. You're in the crowd this is the crowd that you're going to be performing for. Like, as a country artist, like, I know my crowd. Mm-hmm. Like, I know who I'm singing to. And sure, a lot of those people are watching American Idol, but there's just as many here in Stillwater.
Right.
And so if I could make an impact where I am from and, like, where I'm here, sure. I live with you people, and, like, you are my crowd, then, like, I think that's just as beneficial. So I would be hesitant to go back just because I enjoy playing gigs more than I did American Idol.
Right.
I met great people, but it's just a whole different experience. And I would just rather play gigs, I think. But I wouldn't be upset if I went back.
Go start playing at Willie's. Maybe we have the new Garth Brooks sitting in front of us.
I know. I'm 19, though. I don't know if that's allowed. I got to figure that out.
I don't know either.
I got to figure that out.
I don't know either. Well,
we'll see.
We'll do some digging.
We'll see. We'll do some digging,
Oh, and thank you so much. I've been fascinated by learning more about your journey and the whole process as a fan. And some of it I'm not shocked by, but I still can't get over that 400,000.
No.
That's a huge number. I never miss it, right? And so Casey, she wanted to especially watch it when she knew you were going to be on and stuff. And so anyway, so she usually doesn't have time. Usually she's on the phone till 10 or 11 o'clock and not doing her job right. And so she had to come in and watch. But I'll be sitting there sometime watching it, and she'd go like, "Are you crying?" Like,
no.
And I'm like, I love the stories, man. I mean, they're just like
they are mind blowing. Like, to
we
see
just want to see people be
come.
successful, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's
all. That's
I
what
like
it's about.
Seeing people succeed, right? I mean, we're student focused, right?
Right.
Casey and I. And so anytime you get to see people just better themselves
exactly,
and something they love to do,
exactly,
it's awesome.
And and especially in something like they love to do.
Sure.
And you can never get enough of that.
Yeah, no.
I never want to see anyone not do good. So, like, go for it.
We appreciate your positive attitude. So, are we done talking about American Idol?
Yeah.
Hey, so what made you choose OSU?
What made me choose OSU? Yeah. My family is diehard OU.
Okay.
Oof.
My entire family.
I like you already better, right?
My entire family is diehard OU.
Okay.
Bleed red till the day we die, And originally that's how I was, because that's where I grew up, And so we watched OU football every Saturday, and that was that. Like, that was our only plan. And so I always knew I wanted to be a vet, and I was like, well, I don't know what to do, because, like, OU obviously doesn't have a vet program, like, because that's where I was going to school. That was the only option. And so finally, like, we came to the consensus, which this makes sense. We'll go to OU, then we'll transfer for vet school, That makes no sense. But that was what made sense at the time, I guess. But finally, I was like, well, I think I want to at least look and see what OSU has to offer.
Sure.
And to say that was a big step.
Sure, yeah.
But finally, we're like, okay, like, we're going to go on a tour. And I think that's all my parents thought was going to come out of it. And so we go on our tour, and I'm like walking around, I'm like, man, I really like it here, actually. Like, I think this might be where I need to go. And my mom just looked at me. She was like, we'll see. We'll see. And I was like, she said, don't get too ahead of yourself. And I said, okay, whatever. Fast forward a couple months later, I'm like, got into OSU, only place I applied. So,
that's awesome.
I figured out that it was truly, like, the best option for me, of course, because my sister went to OU, and she graduated from OU with her bachelor's in psychology, and, like, that was great, whatever. And so she was the golden child for a minute there. But I think I'm slowly getting to convert my parents a little bit. My sister's too far gone. She's gone.
It's great to be the black sheep.
But it's something.
Yeah.
It is great, because now every Bedlam, it puts a little spice
Sure.
adds a little spice to it. So, but
Well,
last
you
Dublin was
have
not.
represented OSU awesome on
Well,
TV.
good. I'm
You're
glad to
great.
hear that.
You were, and Casey and I both were super proud of you. And so, like I said, I chose one curse word to say when you didn't make it, but I was like, well, but now it's more
Everyone's
impressive.
got
right?
one.
It's
It's
more
okay.
impressive, right, for 400,000 people, like Meghan said. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, I just want to say you did an awesome job. I'm glad you chose OSU. And,
Thank you.
And wish you well the rest of your career here. And
Well, I
hope it all
appreciate
works
it,
out
yeah.
for you. So, and there's some really cool stuff coming in the vet scope, but I'm not going to say anything about that. So,
Okay, you can
really
find me
cool
later.
stuff. I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Off the record about
Right,
the conversation.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
We'll be on the lookout for gigs, and maybe we'll have
Mm-hmm.
Stillwater's first singing veterinarian
We'll see.
in the near
you know?
future.
We'll see, but we're gonna try. But yes, thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to this episode of the Inside OSU podcast. Once again, Meghan Robinson, Darren Shrum. As always, go
Go
Pokes.
Pokes.
I missed that one. Go Pokes.
There you go. Never too late.